Silent Hill F, huge disappointment. It actually legit sucks. I don't know what game these people are playing and what they're smoking. Urban style individual.
What's up with y'all? Hopefully this video finds you in good spirits, and if not, well, at least you not DSP. And one thing about Phil that I've noticed is that he is a constant contrarian. And I'm starting to believe that this dude actually enjoys complaining. He decided that he was going to make a special video outside of the realm of the videos that he usually does just to complain about Silent Hill. So let's get into it.
Hello everyone, Darksydephil here. I'm currently around 5 and 6 hours into the new release Silent Hill F. And I'm going to be honest with all of you. When I was getting the news that this game was coming out, I got hyped. Why? Because we haven't had a new Silent Hill game since Silent Hill Downpour back in 2012.
No, that's a lie. Not when he says the timeline for a new Silent Hill game, but when he talks about being hyped. Phil has never been hyped for a video game, ever. He doesn't ever watch upcoming trailers for new video games that are about to come out. And when he does do it, he's just sitting there with this snarling look on his face like, you better show me something. You better impress me. Like game developers are creating games specifically to appease him.
13 years is a long time to wait for a brand new Silent Hill. In the meantime, I played all of the classics. I replayed some of them. I recently played Silent Hill 2 Remake last year. Absolutely amazing game. My pick for Game of the Year.
And I guarantee you the whole time you was playing it, you was complaining about it. You were bitching about the mechanics. You were talking about devs didn't know what they were doing. So just stop it. Because I never seen a playthrough where he was actually enjoying himself outside of when he played WWE Champions on stream. Every other game is the same old thing with you.
And so, when Silent Hill F was being promoted and advertised, and I said, you know, I'm going to give it a fair shot. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt that it's going to be in Japan. These devs hopefully know what they're doing, and this game will be great. And then after that, I basically stopped following along. Why? I didn't really want to be spoiled. I wanted to just be pleasantly surprised when I played the game.
That's nonsense. He's trying to act as if he had high anticipation for this game, so much so that he avoided trailers and information about it because he wanted to have an organic playthrough. No, Phil, you didn't watch trailers or keep up with it because you don't watch trailers or keep up with any game. All right? So stop trying to act like Silent Hill is some exception. This is what you always do.
I had it in my schedule. I even bought the digital deluxe version of the game to play it earlier on in the week so that we could get a head start and actually get a good chunk into the game before other releases hit later on.
No, you bought it early because you are in the realm of content creation, and you know having things early in your niche gives you an edge. Okay, you often complain about bigger content creators getting review codes and stuff like that, things that you long for, things that you wish you could still get. So when you had an opportunity to hop on Silent Hill, it gives you that feeling of back in the day where you were at the forefront of putting out content because you thought this was going to get you some day one views, right? But it didn't.
And all along, I kept hearing good things about Silent Hill F. The reviewers seemed to say, oh my goodness, it's a great modern Silent Hill. It might even be better than some of the classics. And I was like, wow, high praise from games media. And for a survival horror game too, that's weird. But at the same time, maybe it's a good sign. And so, being 5 to 6 hours into Silent Hill F right now, all right, I'm able to share with you my early opinions about the game. And my opinion is thus: Silent Hill F sucks.
Now, who didn't see that coming? Now, we know Phil likes to present himself as some type of gaming edgelord, but he's so predictable. So it actually takes some of the edge off of it, even though he doesn't understand that. But let's listen to why he believes Silent Hill sucks.
I'm serious. It's actually not that good at all. I don't know what game this games media has been playing. Maybe they just don't like classic survival horror, or they don't know what makes a game a good survival horror game.
Or they just have a different opinion than you. That's such an absolutist way of looking at something. If you don't like what I like, then you don't like this genre at all. Like, what type of approach is that? And how do you expect to have any real dialogue with somebody or a conversation if you have such an approach? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, how are you gonna tell somebody they don't like an entire genre just because they disagree with you about a particular game in that genre? It's nonsense.
Silent Hill F does not have any of the components of it. Allow me to explain. A good survival horror game needs three elements. One is a good atmosphere and story, something supernatural, something interesting going on. Maybe it's body horror, maybe it's mutations, zombies, monsters, ghosts. Who cares? As long as it's something that's kind of weird and keeps you gripping and interesting and asking, what's going on? What's going to happen next? The second component is good combat. And when I say good combat, with survival horror, typically there's one constant element, the element of survival. That's why it's called survival horror. So, element of, oh, I don't have enough resources. I need to micromanage my inventory. I need to make sure I don't overuse ammo or resources in combat. I need to make sure I don't pump too many health items out. I need to basically ration everything I do because you never know what challenge is around the next corner. And you don't know how hard the challenges are going to be. And then the third component is puzzles. Most survival horror games that are successful and good have great puzzles in them. And that's the third interesting element. Find the key that opens this door that leads you to the next challenge. Do a little mini game. Oops, you messed up the mini game. Now you die. Now you got to do it over from the start. Stuff like that, right?
It's very funny to me that he's trying to act as if his criteria for a survival horror game is run of the mill, is what should be widely accepted by the masses. Even though we know traditionally that even if they are good puzzles or good combat or any of the things that you mentioned, you're still going to complain about it. And the reason you're going to complain about it is because you did not make money. That's it. That's all this boils down to. So you're going to throw a hissy fit about this and try to proclaim that it's about how bad the game is so you can put the responsibility of your failed stream on the game opposed to putting it on yourself. We've seen this movie a million times with you, dude, and you're not convincing anybody.
All that stuff has always been present in survival horror games. Silent Hill F has all three components, and one of them is good. The atmosphere and the story have a horror element. It's interesting. It's gripping. 6 hours in, that's the one part of the game I'm very interested in.
Now, you notice the part that he claims is the best is the part that he's not required to use his brain. In combat, you have to use your brain. And with the puzzles, you have to use your brain. But with the atmosphere, your character is just kind of in it. You're just kind of walking around in it. So he thoroughly enjoys that part of it. How ironic.
However, both the combat and the puzzles stink. Allow me to explain why. The combat is completely transformed and changed from previous Silent Hills. There is no ammo, no guns. All you do is pick up melee weapons and swing away. That's it. Now, there's some other things to it. There's 3 meters, a health meter, a sanity meter, a stamina meter. You can charge up an attack and release it for a supercharge that stuns an enemy, and then you can do a combo to finish. You could charge up a heavy attack and hit an enemy and try to finish them. You could just mash the dodge button, which is probably what most people will do playing this game. And you can either dodge an enemy attack, or if you time it perfectly, the game slows down a little bit, and then you can either escape or you can wail on the enemy. And then there's even a counterattack parry where you can charge a button that, again, uses this sanity meter. And then you can see when the enemy's going to attack and interrupt with the counterattack. And now they get stunned and you can do a combo.
Now, he opened this up talking about how bad combat sucks. Then he went on to mention the layers that exist within the combat system. And I am of the firm belief that if you want a good survival horror game, you don't really want quote unquote good combat in a traditional sense, because then it becomes a zombie game. You're just going around killing everything, right? The combat is supposed to be not necessarily a means to an end, but just another tool that you use to avoid or scrape by in certain confrontations. It's not, it's a survival horror game. It's not designed for you to engage with every single enemy. You got to pick your spots. And sometimes those enemies are going to pick you, and you may not have what you need at the time to deal with them. So you do little things to get out of those situations until you do have the things you need to deal with them. So I think in a survival horror game, if you have a fleshed out combat system when you can do a bunch of crazy things, it changes the dynamic of the game. It's no longer survival horror.
Now, I want you to just think about everything I just described. Does any of that sound like Silent Hill or any survival horror game ever?
He wants a game that is devoid of tension, that he can just walk through, that's linear, and everything is kind of spelled out for him. And this is why I say WWE Champions has ruined other games for him. It really has, because in WWE Champions, he can just press a button and things go his way. And we see when he plays normal games, when he presses buttons and things don't go his way, what happens?
It sounds like an action game. It almost sounds like an action RPG hybrid game. That's all the combat in Silent Hill F. Now, herein lies the problem. It's not engaging, it's not fun, it's just either boring or unnecessary. I've been playing 6 hours, and I found that 9 times out of 10, literally just running by and mashing the dodge button on every single enemy is more effective than engaging any enemy.
Okay, so what difficulty are you playing on? And that's a choice that you're making, right? Would you want them to put you on a linear path where you have to engage with every single enemy? Or do you want the survival horror experience where tension is based on where you are, the next corner, the next door, the next choke point? I would love to see Phil try to design a game. Like, this dude acts like he's the foremost leading scholar on game development, but we haven't seen you create anything that's noteworthy. But here you are talking about what somebody else created.
There's almost never a reason to fight an enemy. Even if they get a cheap hit on you, you can easily still run away, and the game gives you tons of items, so you can always be healing or whatever. In fact, I'm constantly having issues having too many items in my inventory, so I basically have to dump items to pick up others.
And that's a pretty good indicator that you probably should bump up the difficulty. You're essentially complaining about it being too easy. Okay, if it's too easy for you, then up the difficulty, and then you would get the tension that you're looking for. Stop complaining.
Okay? Now, the game acts like an RPG. There's charms you can equip for the combat. Things like have more health, have more stamina. You don't really need any of it, to be frank. And you can even upgrade, again, through an RPG-like system to equip more of these charms and be even more powerful. So here's the deal.
No, again, he mentions all these things that he's not engaging with because according to him, he doesn't need it. Well, once again, that's another indicator that the difficulty that you're playing on is not challenging enough because you have resources that you're trying to get rid of that you don't even need. But instead of him upping up the difficulty and playing the game on a difficulty that will be challenging to him and entertaining to his fans, he decides he's going to make an additional video to just complain about it.
I'm playing the game on the default settings. The default settings are story level difficulty for combat, hard difficulty for puzzles. I'll be honest, I think that's too easy. I think that it should have been hard difficulty for both because when I engage the enemies, it's almost never challenging. I've only died once ever. It's because I wasn't even trying or paying attention. And at this point, I feel like the combat is an afterthought.
Well, people or the player being able to change difficulty in games were the developers' first shot at trying to make games accessible to other people. That's the point. Why are you complaining about an option? It would be very different if that was the difficulty of the game and there was nothing you can do about it. But you can change it, but you're just choosing not to. It just makes no sense.
Now you might say, well, it's your fault because you picked story. Well, that was the default setting in the game, and I always play on default. However, my viewers have told me they're playing on hard, and guess what? Here's what hard changes. The enemies hit for more damage, and you take more hits to kill the enemies. That's it. All the enemies are in the same spots. It's not more. Everything else is identical. The only difference is what I just described. Also,
Yes, Phil, because it's about attrition. So if they hit you now, it's going to take more of those resources that you were previously trying to get rid of. You're going to actually need those things now. It fundamentally changes the game. Also, certain enemies become far more scarier than they were before. I still don't understand what you're complaining about because what you're saying makes no sense. And it makes no sense because you're complaining about the game not making you money. We know you don't care about the game mechanics. This game could have been a terrible game. I mean, you sit up and play Sequoia, however you say that game, for hours on end, and it's one of the most boring games I think I've ever seen. So we know you don't care about actual good games. So just stop the madness.
So there's one other difference. When you go to a save spot, you restore all of your meters, I guess, on the story difficulty. When you're on the harder difficulty, you do not restore your sanity meter. But all that means is you can't do the special charge attack and you can't do the counter attack. But you can still dodge, you can still mash, you can still run. There's been entire enemy rooms I skipped. The only time you're actually committed to fighting an enemy is actually if it's blocking a door or if you're fighting a boss. Everything else is skippable. The combat is insanely boring, repetitive, not memorable, and a waste of your time. They could have done anything else. They could have emulated any other survival horror game, and it would have been better than the combat that they put into this game.
But why would they emulate other games when they're out trying to create something for themselves? And you often complain about AAA games being slop, they're all the same, yada yada yada. So here we are with a developer trying to do something a little bit different with a franchise that we're all familiar with, and we have Darksydephil complaining on a loop because he decided he wasn't going to engage with certain gameplay mechanics because he wasn't making money. You should have seen the stream, how much complaining he was doing because he knew for sure. He just knew, oh, I'm playing a brand new release. I got it early. He just thought the money was just going to be raining from the sky. And when it didn't, he just could not believe it. He was beside himself. And at that point, the game was as good as dead to him. And we all could feel it.
Now, here's the other problem, the puzzles. I'm playing the puzzles on hard difficulty. And some of the puzzles, admittedly, were a little tricky, but today, the straw broke the camel's back, and we're only 6 hours in. Today, the game gave me 2 puzzles, and I know this might be minor spoiler alert, but I need to explain to you these 2 puzzles and why they're so bad for you to understand why the puzzles of this game suck. One puzzle required you to know what the actual blossom, flower, and tree of the Sakura cherry plant looked like.
Oh my God, what a big deal. Now, I know before, because he complained about this endlessly on his stream, because, he thinks just because he's not from Japan that he shouldn't know what that is. Phil, I'm not from Australia. None of us are. Well, some of us might be that's listening to me, but we probably never seen a real tarantula in real life. Probably never seen a king cobra snake. It's a lot of stuff that you are familiar with and you have imagery of in your head that you have not actually seen with your own eyes. And these things are in other regions. This is why this is a moot point, because he could have easily just looked this up. But instead of looking it up, he's going to spend 10 times the amount of time to complain about it.
Now, I generally know what it looks like because I've seen art, but I don't live in Japan. I've never seen a Sakura cherry tree in person. I don't know what the tree itself looks like. I know what the blossom looks like, maybe open, but I don't know necessarily what a branch would look like, Oh, you just need to know because there's a puzzle box. You have to pick 3 of them. And if you pick wrong, the game says you're wrong, but doesn't say which ones you got right or wrong. So it's literally you picking out of a combination of, I think, 12 to 13 different choices.
He wanted it to be like one of those old school keyboard games you would be on when you was a little kid, where if you got something wrong, it would give you a little message and tell you what the right answer was. And eventually you figured out, okay, I don't really have to know the answers. I can just go through and put all the wrong answers or whatever I think at first. And then the computer system is going to tell me what the right answers are. And I just put those ones in. That's how Phil would like modern gaming to work. It's so ridiculous, man. Look at his face. If you got it wrong and the difficulty of the puzzles is on hard, why would you expect them to give you the answers, Phil? Does that make any sense?
And you have to get the right 3 or you fail. And you don't even know you have to pick 3. So you could literally sit there for 7 hours guessing and never know until you open up the internet and search Sakura cherry blossom tree, and then your answer is right there. Does that sound like a fun puzzle for a video game? Here's another one, and this will be the last one I spoil, I promise. I'm not kidding you. There's a combination lock on a locker. This is for the story. You need to open this to progress in the story. And it says, spell the word bus with numbers. How do you spell the word bus with numbers? Is there a codex? Is there a Da Vinci Code, right? Thing that you decode it with and you know that the numbers correspond to letters? No. What numbers look like the letters B, U, and S? What? What kind of puzzle is that? By the way, name one number that looks like the letter U. I'm waiting. Would you like the solution? Spoiler, the number 6. Do you see my point?
Look how animated he is about this. This dude is almost 50 years old, recording himself complaining about a game because he couldn't figure something out. It's just so ridiculous that this man thinks that this is a good idea. All this does is doubles down on your stupidity, Phil. Now, it wasn't enough for you to embarrass yourself struggling with these things. Now you have to come on here and tell us that they are bad because you struggle with these things. He acts like it's 1990 and you just have to sit there for 7 hours hoping one day it'll eventually come to you. Dude, do what everybody else does. Go to your phone or your spare screen real quick in your studio, quote unquote, look up the answer, get the answer, and keep it moving. It's not that deep.
The puzzles are actually terrible. Now, I just played a Silent Hill game a year ago. That was my game of the year, and it had great puzzles. What was the problem with Konami when they made this game? They didn't consult anyone who knew how to make puzzles. Gee, maybe the puzzle should be specific to the game or something to do with the game or even just something you can figure out if you're smart or you're, not. You need to know what the Sakura cherry blossom tree looks like. Go research it online. You need to guess what letter we think corresponds to a number, even though it looks nothing like it, just because we're stupid and this is our puzzle.
Notice how he tried to use the word research to give his point more meaning, as if you would actually have to go about researching what a cherry blossom is, when in actuality, it's a 5-second Google search, but Phil just absolutely refuses to use his brain. He's going to do everything else. He's only going to use his brain when absolutely necessary. I'm not sure if he experiences like actual pain while thinking or what, but this man will go out of his way to avoid it.
Get the hell out of here. Are you insane? So the puzzles suck. The combat sucks. What is good is the story. It's gripping, it's interesting, and that's why I want to keep playing it. But guys, 6 hours in, it's rough. My audience can't even stand it. My audience is bored to tears because, again, most of it's wandering around, avoiding or fighting these boring, repetitive enemies or doing these annoying puzzles.
Or it could be your audience is just as dented as you are. Maybe y'all have kindred spirits, right? Maybe y'all have the same strife. Or maybe you are lying on your audience, as you usually do when you're trying to perpetuate a narrative, because you know when things fail because you're in charge, you're the captain of the ship, quote unquote, according to you. People are naturally going to look at the leader when things go wrong. And we can't have that now, can we, Phil? So, of course, you're going to shift blame to the game. This is what you always do, man. This is your standard operating procedures. So this is news to no one.
The story is decent, but there's not enough of it. I even said to my audience, this game would have been better if they took this element out of it. Take the controller, put it down, just make this a movie or a TV series, and it's great. I would watch this as a TV show, a Japanese TV show with these teens interacting and trying to survive and all the supernatural stuff going on. Instead, I got to kill a million enemies by mashing like an idiot, or I just got to run by them like an idiot. And then I got to solve awful puzzles that aren't fun. And you got to look up the solutions because the game devs were morons and didn't put anything in there that, takes intelligence. It's just, you have to just know.
No, they actually did put something in there that requires intelligence. It's just you are devoid of it. How can you say they're morons when their puzzle consists of information that you do not know? Because that's what you're complaining about. I don't know what a cherry blossom tree is, but they're the idiots. Come on, man.
So, yeah, it's bad. I'm shocked. I thought this game was going to be one of my game of the year contenders. It's actually pretty bad. I would hope that my opinion will change, but I don't know. Unless they completely redesign the game halfway through, I don't see how it's going to be any better. I just see it being more of the same. And again, I am going to play through it because I want to see the story. But for me, that's it. So Silent Hill F, huge disappointment. It actually legit sucks. I don't know what game these people are playing and what they're smoking.
It's funny that he mentions what they're smoking, because for most people, smoking actually makes the game better, Phil. And on top of that, you mentioned you would love watching this game if it was a movie, right? Well, tell me what horror film where the people in the horror film are trying to directly interact with or confront the so-called killer. Oftentimes, the movie is framed in a way where you are trying to avoid the killer. And if you do have a brush with him, a Michael Myers, a Jason, or whatever, you'll use a pen or a knife or a shoe or a lamp to try to get them up off of you in that moment, because you know you are ill-equipped to deal with them mano a mano, right? Survival horror. So it doesn't make sense what you're complaining about, even when you say you would like to watch it as a film, because because the films do not follow the formula that you claim should be a part of a survival horror experience. So once again, Phil, you fail. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Urban style content. I'm dead.